All right, welcome to Halitics. It's the 23rd day of December. Wow, this is going to be my final Monday live this year. And then, of course, I'll be back starting the 2nd of next year. No Arlen today. It's not an Arlen Monday. Arlen is off for the holiday, and we'll have him back some point next year. I'm not sure exactly when he's going to be available, but probably either probably the first Monday I would assume, which would be the 6th, I believe. That's right. Yeah, the 6th of January. Maybe not till the 13th. We'll find out. We'll certainly keep you posted on that. Yeah, I do need a shave. Some of you, my wife among them, have urged me to shave. I normally try to be relatively clean shaven, have only at most one day of growth on my face before I come on the Halitics Live. But when it's really cold and it's been well below 30, 32, right, well below freezing, then I do prefer not to shave, because not so much because the beard, it's not so thick that it would actually keep my face warm. It would take me quite a while, but just shaving exposes the skin, and it rips off a layer of epidermis, which I think does cause me to feel colder. So that's the reason. When it's cold, you may not see me shave. Discerning folks may have noticed, by the way, I'm using a slightly different version of Fur Elise now. I started that last week as my kind of opening theme music, and I chose that for a couple of reasons. One is very iconic. I remember it from the 80s and the old Galag game. Two, because it's old, so I presume the music was in the public domain. That was a bad presumption. I've had some of the music segments blocked, at least on Facebook. It doesn't affect or impact on the actual content. You still hear what I have to say because I only play it at the beginning and sometimes at the very end. But I still don't like that. It truncates the program a little bit. So what I've done instead is gone with what I believe shouldn't be a problem at all. That is a public domain version. As far as I understand, a public domain version of the video, it is a video, but it's an audio that I play, not the video itself, just the audio of it. So that's basically just to avoid any issues with copyright or anything else. I was certainly not intending to violate anything, and I'm sure there's no problem, but Facebook did flag it. So for that, and they said it's fine, it's not a problem. We just aren't going to play that section of it. So now I'm playing what I believe should be totally okay. Public domain of Fur Elise, for those who wonder. Also, we've got a little new segment. I always urge you to click subscribe and like. Now I've got a little like GIF I've got there in the left corner there, bottom left, really easy just to put it up, and I can just add it, subtract it as I like. So hopefully you'll click like. I did that. I noticed that my Friday video has done really well, the free-for-all, and I can't remember exactly what I talked about. Whatever it is, there was a lot of positive reaction to it, and as a result, or at least a lot of clicks, a lot of people watching it. My subscriptions bumped up a little bit over the weekend. I told you that's what I want for the holidays, is you to subscribe, and if you have already subscribed, then click like, and also call. Please do call. Hey Jeff, I hope you'll call. I urged you to last week in Halitics on Facebook, but I also want you to, please click subscribe now. There you see the subscribe. There's a little bell too for like and all that's for notifying, all that stuff. So we got all that going on. We'll start with, before we get to, Gaza, I was getting ready for today's program. I thought I got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I really want to get into the fake OC, right? AOC, fake OC. But then I was preparing it as I was sitting in the auto repair shop. I had to have one of my tires has a little leak in it, and so we're replacing the front tires and all this nonsense. But while I was sitting there, I was thinking, I've got some good stuff to talk about. I want to talk about fake OC. I want to talk about Musk's proposed ban on TV actually, it's not Musk. It's RFK calling for a ban on TV advertising of pharmaceuticals. Musk, by the way, supporting that, at least on X. And it's a good story, and it's something we want. I think we should definitely want it. But the New York Times against, or at least their article kind of makes it clear they're not real thrilled with the idea. We'll get into why maybe they're not happy about it in a little bit. But I'm thinking, things are, it'll be kind of a fun day, and it's the holiday season. And then I thought, oh, Gaza, I've got to talk about how awful things are there. And we do. We just have no choice. This is what our government is doing. This is what our country, our nation is you know, when I say is responsible for, I get it. I understand if you say to me, no, Hal, Israel's responsible, not Harris Biden, not the U.S., not America. And to a degree, that's true, but it wouldn't be happening without the full-throated, unwavering support of the Harris-Biden administration. So, yeah, it's just as bad as it can be. Live, Israeli attacks across Gaza, 58 Palestinians in a day. That's from this morning. And I told you last week that one of the I guess aspects of my life that I take a lot of pleasure and a lot of joy in is my daily walks around my neighborhood with my wife. And sometimes I go by myself. And when I go by myself, I'm often very pensive and, you know, sort of cogitating on what's happening. And I was, you know, just thinking, how happy can I be knowing how awful things are around the world, and specifically, you know, as bad as it is for many Americans, and I have great sympathy for them. What we're doing in Gaza is kind of first in my heart right now, because it's the worst place in the world to be, and it's also what the U.S. government is doing, and also, yeah, because as a Jew, I have, I think, maybe a heightened, and I don't want to overdo it, a heightened sensitivity to victims of genocide, of ethnic cleansing, and also because it's my people who are committing this crime. You know, my co-religionists anyway. People who kind of look a little bit like me, maybe same kind of skin tone, some of them, hair color, the whole, maybe from some of them coming from Ukraine or where my family originated, you know, in the centuries. There were Goodmans, one of my mom's side in Ukraine, and I think Bibi is originally from Russia, his family. I'm not even certain about that, but there's not that many degrees of separation between me and Israelis perpetrating genocide. So maybe that's another reason this is so painful, you know, especially painful for me. Here's a video talking about Christmas winter in Gaza.
Winter has arrived in Gaza, bringing with it new hardship for the nearly 2 million displaced Palestinians. For families living in makeshift camps like this one in Khan Yunis in the south of the Strip, the icy temperatures could be life-threatening. There is no electricity or gas here, no heaters or electric blankets. Omar Shabet is trying to reinforce his tent. Like many others, he and his family were forced to leave their home in Gaza City many months ago.
We go inside our tents after sunset and don't go out because it is very cold and it gets colder by midnight. My 7-year-old daughter almost cries at night because of how cold she is.
The UN says nearly 1 million people urgently need winter supplies. But getting aid into Gaza has proved nearly impossible. The Israeli military has blocked almost all humanitarian assistance from entering the Strip. As a result, 22,000 tents are stuck in Jordan and hundreds of thousands of blankets in Egypt.
No proper clothes, no socks, nothing. We never expected to live such a life. My house was so good in the north.
Even the most basic items are out of reach for most families.
We wake up in the morning freezing. Do you know what freezing means? We're shivering from the cold.
As night falls, people are too scared to light fires. It could make them a target for Israeli airstrikes. Aid agencies are warning of a looming health crisis. Infectious diseases are already rife in the overcrowded camps where there are no water or sanitation facilities. And they say the bitter cold could cause more outbreaks. While Israeli forces wage war in Gaza from the north to the south of the Strip, for families here, every night is a battle just to keep warm. Axel Zaimovich, Al Jazeera.
Yeah, it's just so bad there. And, I thought about interrupting that video in a couple of spots, but I just think it stands on its own. You don't need my editorializing. It's just a terrible, terrible thing that we as a nation, I think, have to take responsibility. And we call ourselves a democracy, and I get it. Our government is not responsive to us. The parties do not respond to the people. They respond to the billionaire class. And the billionaire class, for whatever reason, and some of it is greed, and some of it, I guess, is sort of a religious affinity, wants this. They're good with it. They don't want it to stop. And so it isn't. But we have alternatives. We could have voted in greater numbers for Jill Stein. We could have pushed more aggressively, even for someone like a Marianne Williamson, for whom I did not vote personally, and who was not clearly against the support that Biden was providing to the Israeli genocide machine. But still, I think there was a fair argument in the winter of 24 that she would have been less awful when it came to Gaza. So we, as voters, we should have voted for Bernie. Democratic primary voters should have voted for Bernie in 2020. We all should have voted for Jill Stein in 2016 and 2020. I didn't. I was wrong. I voted for Biden in 2020. So we had ways to express our disapproval of this administration, and we didn't do it. So we have to be, at least, bear some of the blame for what Israel is doing with our complete and utter support. Israel and the Biden-Harris administration have killed now over 45,000. We had 58 dead as of midnight over the past 24 hours. And we now have 45,317 identified Gazans. That's up 217 since Friday midnight. It's Thursday, Friday, 12 a.m. In this time. So, my goal here, what I try to do is come up with solutions, persuade people, use my tiny little bully pulpit, what little I have, to promote what I believe are better ways forward, ways that hopefully will lead to a world where we all have enough and not have too much. I get an awful lot of pushback, and it seems like almost more of it often from others who in many ways share my values, at least have in the past, my pro-democracy values, my pro-democratic party values, at least as I saw it. Healthcare affordability, healthcare for all, one payer, clean, green environment, clean, green energy sector. People who seem now most kind of upset by my current solutions, which is we've got to renounce the Republicrats, right? We can't just say it's the fault is Trump, the fault is the Republican Party. That will not get us where we need to go, because the Democratic Party is also responsible for the existential crises we face. And I say crises as plural. The Democratic Party is also responsible. And I got into it again, and I often share the Facebook, the social media stuff with you, because I think, and it's kind of sad, right? I mean, I would love to have people come on this program who don't share my views. And every now and Arlen doesn't, but he's like the only one, really. But people I used to have on just will not do it. And I cannot get the Our Revolution people. They just will not join. Now, I think part of it, they would say it's, well, you have a small audience. Why should we waste our time? And that's true. But the audience is growing, at least fitfully. But as I mentioned, we had a very good Friday, very good free for all, and Thursday was good with Chuck. That was a really good program with Chuck Pinocchio from One Payer States. So it's not just audience size. Plus, these are people that I've worked with in the past, some of them, and you'd think they would want to do me a solid, but they just don't. They don't want to have their pro-democratic party positions challenged. They know that, they really do. They know that their arguments are weak. They know that the Democratic Party is a huge part of the problem. And they don't want to be challenged on it, partly because their job, they're getting paid to promote pro-Democratic Party positions, and they don't want to have those positions undermined. That's counter to their actual position as they take for their job. Now, I don't say they're putting their jobs at risk necessarily, but it doesn't feel good. You have cognitive dissonance. You're arguing, yes, we must vote for Biden-Harris. Yes, we must support AOC. These are our solutions. Yes, the Green Party is really awful. They're grifters. And if you take that position and then somebody argues with you and they point out the massive logical holes in it, the failings of the Democratic Party, you might not lose your job. After all, you promoted the positions that your employer wants you to promote. But it doesn't feel good. You start to feel bad about yourself. Wait, what I'm doing isn't helpful. What I'm doing is harmful. So what's the solution? I'm not going to put myself in a position where my pro-Democratic Party, my pro-Kamala, my pro-AOC, my pro-Jamie Raskin positions, which I really took in good faith. But now this guy is poking big holes in them, and it makes me feel bad about myself. So I'm not going to do it anymore. Well, I hear you. I get it. And I could easily say, well, then change your position. Don't do, or stop working for the man. But then they'd be like, but then I'll be hungry, right? And I like what I do. I like being an organizer. I like promoting what I believe to be better candidates. Even if they're not great, even if they're not as good as I think, as I've been saying, they're still better than the Republicans. And then we get into that debate. So here's the response from one of my Facebook friends. What are you talking about? The Democrats work toward green energy, which is better than what Trump is going to do. Well, this is true that they have worked towards, they've thrown a lot of money, right? The Democrats have thrown a lot of money at green energy. And I'm just going to work through this quickly because we really have to move on. But in terms of working towards green energy, it is true. But green energy doesn't solve the energy crisis, the climate crisis, the climate holocaust. Green energy doesn't solve it. What solves it is keeping it in the ground. What solves it is not burning coal. What solves it is not burning oil. What solves it is not burning gas. So you can have lots of green energy, and we do. We have a lot of green energy. We have a lot more green energy than we did in, say, 1700. Before the Industrial Revolution began, before we started to burn fossil fuels. I think that's when coal started to become a thing, was in around 1700. Maybe it was a little earlier, I'm not sure about that. But sometime during the Enlightenment period or at the end of the Middle Ages, we started to really burn coal in very, very small quantities compared to today. But we had green energy. We had a lot more green energy we have a lot more green energy now, but there was green energy. There were windmills, right? We used sailboats to get from one place to another. Rowing is not green energy. It's human energy. But, there have been sailboats forever. So we did have green energy for, thousands of years. We've used green energy. We've exploited sustainable resources. The sun, right? I mean, people built houses that would, greenhouses and the like. That's an old technology that captures solar energy. So it's not as though there hasn't been green energy. We have so much more green energy now than we ever had in the past. And yet, we also have a climate holocaust, which we didn't used to have. So green energy isn't the solution. The solution is to keep it in the ground, to stop burning fossil fuels. The Democrats are not about keeping it in the ground. They're not going to stop or even reduce our consumption of fossil fuels. So they're not better. or only very, very marginally better. But let me get to the one I was really, because we're talking about Palestine. The only thing they arguably make worse is the Palestinian situation. But if you think Trump isn't going to be any worse, you should change your prescription. So I'm trying to understand that. Israel under Harris Biden has killed 45,300 and some odd people. With our full-blown support, people are living in 10 cities. Biden has done, since the election, nothing to stop this. So I cannot understand this argument. If you think Trump isn't going to be any worse, well, again, the entire population, this is the kind of thing that makes me so angry. It's like, okay, well, he'll kill them faster. I don't know. Could Israel kill any faster? They can't. Those people in those 10 cities, they can't even light fires because it will attract Israeli bombers. Just such a bad argument. And then Jill Stein can say whatever she wants because she's not in power. She can promise peace on earth and she'll never be called on it because she'll never be elected. She doesn't say peace on earth. This is just a totally fake argument. She says, I'll stop supporting Israel. I'll stop selling arms to Ukraine. That's what she's saying. I'll stop giving arms to Ukraine. That's what she's saying. That's the correct policy. That's what we should be doing. There's just no legitimate argument for the Democrats versus Stein, except, well, she can't win. But the only reason she can't win is because everyone says she can't win. All right. This is Halitics, and I'm Hal Ginsberg. Do click like, do click subscribe. Yeah, the point is that we had the good numbers on Friday, but I didn't see a lot of likes. So now I'm subscribe, but also click like. If you don't like it, tell me why. What am I doing wrong? Oh, one thing I have done wrong is I'm not checking my chat. I should do that. I always promise I'll check my chat. Maybe there aren't any. It's hard to tell the way this is set up. No chats yet. No chats today. That's fine. Let's get to fake OC, right? Fake OC. So here she is on the majority report, and we'll kind of explore a little bit those two on the either side of fake OC in the middle. But let's just play this clip from over the weekend. Let's see. Here we go.
Like the case that I was making to the caucus is that I can message on an economically populist message.
All right. So she's talking about how she didn't get, right? She did not get that slot as ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee. So she's explaining that her argument for getting that slot was that she would message. She would be a better messenger. She would message more in a populist direction, right? That's her argument.
And that is my intention. Of course, we are going to fight on civil rights. We're going to fight on human dignity. We're not going to let Democrats abandon our trans community. We're not going to allow Democrats to try to run skittish on civil and human rights issues. But the selling point, the most alluring point to bring the party together and to bring them over, we have to make a case of persuasion, which is that there is no other place where we are seeing promise to win back the working class, to win back Latinos, to win back young people.
I want to stop it right there. So she speaks without any accent. To win back the working class, to win back Latinos. So when you say that, AOC, you're actually off-putting. You're actually making it harder to attract a true working class coalition because you suddenly put on this accent, right? Because that's not how Latino is how you say it in English. And so when you say that, you're making yourself different. You're using language in a way that isn't treating all working people the same. It's like, we're going to change our language for this group. And that's fine. I mean, I don't personally care, but you're actually putting people off that you're trying to appeal to. But what's much more important than that, I mean, who cares? What's really important is that you talk about messages. You don't talk about policy. You didn't say it's our bad policies that caused working people to abandon us. It's our pro-war policies, which have been very harmful to the Democratic Party. It's our free trade policies that have caused working people to abandon us. It's the fact that we did not push for a card check. We did not raise the minimum wage, even though we campaigned on it. The fact that we don't have one payer, that Democrats have stood in the way of one payer. That's why it's not about the message. Your message is appropriate for who you are. You're a corporatist, billionaire-backed party. But she won't say that. She can't say that. She will not take on her party. So all she has is trying to promote a BS message about the Democrats that doesn't ring true in anybody's mind. That's why I say fake OC. Fake OC. You're not a progressive. You're not a populist. You're a phony.
Then right here. And the message that we can send as a party that has been really kind of cemented in this election by Trump, that Democrats are the party of the elite, which bore out in an electorate in terms of what.
Right, but she says that, but she doesn't. She says, well, because the people vote. It's true. The elites supported us. They didn't support Trump. The elites supported us. The working people moved farther and farther toward Trump. That is true. That is true. But she doesn't acknowledge. She can't say. She refused. She will not say, because she's a Democrat, that the reason this happened is because our policies favor elites. They don't favor working people. She won't say that. Now, you can argue, and lots of people do, well, maybe the Democrats aren't that great, but at least they're not Republicans who are even worse. And I'm okay with that. That's probably true. That is true. But vote for us, the other guy sucks more isn't a winning message when the other guy is saying, hey, I am going to make things better for you. Now, I'm not saying Trump will, but at least he's saying, what are your problem? I hear you. Yes, the price of eggs is too high. It is making your life more difficult. Not, oh, you don't like the price of eggs. Oh, that's too bad. We'll go ahead and vote for Trump then. So yeah, you're right. Your message sucks, AOC, but so do your policies. That's why you lose. And for her to say, well, the message that we can bring the party together with an economic populist message, sure, you could all be on the same page and talk about how hard it is to be a worker. But what you can't do is bring the party together with an economic populist policy, right? You can't get Medicare for all. You haven't even mentioned, you haven't talked about one payer. In this entire interview, she doesn't mention healthcare once. I went through it, I looked through it, I did a search, not once. Fake OC, fake AOC. That's who she is. And it's so tough because people thought, oh, and I did. I was one of them. I remember back in 2018, I argued with people who were more centrist. Yeah, she's really good. I like her. She's good. She's taken on the establishment. She sat, she did a sit-in at Pelosi's office, at Mama Bear's office, before she was Mama Bear. She says, oh, we're not going to ban our Latinos and our trans community and all that. Okay, that's fine. Don't abandon them. But that's totally Democratic meat, because you'll fight internally and you'll fight with the Republicans on that. And you will not promote the policies that will make life better for those very people that you claim to care about. Fake AOC.
That the way that we counter that is a populist economic message, which...
Not a populist... See, now she says it. Again, a populist economic message. Not with populist economic policies. Not with legislation that will really make life better for poor, struggling, working people. No, we're not about that. We're not going to do that. Come on. We just need a good message. We need to go back to Madison Avenue and talk to the, talk to the madmen about it, and we'll solve all our problems. We'll just keep selling the same old crap, but we'll put it in a slightly nicer bottle.
The frame has the benefit of a multiracial democracy, and that is attenuated.
Look at how they're just nodding, like, oh, yeah, whatever you say, AOC, you're just the best. We just love you so much. I think Cedar he doesn't buy that. So a little more from AOC. I can't remember what this clip is, but I'm sure there's something in there that I wanted to talk about, or I wouldn't have it in my slide deck. So let's just play a little more from her, and then we're going to get the response from Ryan Grimm and from Cedar, which is kind of interesting, actually. And I really wanted to highlight how they come out in response.
Dovetails into this. So I told her I would ask this question. She wants to know, and I think sort of these two questions sort of address that whole dynamic. One is if you feel abandoned by the Democratic Party, and how so if you do, but also she wants to know, how do you grapple with having to appeal to multiple different ideological groups within the Democratic Party and your constituency?
Yeah.
All right, let me stop it there. So abandoned, right? Were you abandoned because you lost the vote, right? You wanted to be the ranking member. You fought to be the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, and you got passed over. You were the number 2 after Raskin, so it was your turn. And you didn't get it. And you lost by a pretty damn big margin, right? Over 50, your opponent got, I think if I do the math right, over 50% more votes than you did, right? Because she got 130, she got 84, he got like 131 or something. I don't know. So he got over 50% more. So she didn't do well. Do you feel abandoned, like the party doesn't care for you? Because that's what my takeaway is. Maybe my takeaway would be, if I were AOC, this party ain't redeemable. I'm not going to get them to move in my direction. They're electing a long-time dying of esophageal cancer centrist who takes lots and lots of money from the defense contractors, but raises far less for Democrats than I do. You should feel abandoned, AOC. You really should. Does she? Does fake OC?
Two really good questions. The first one is that I don't really feel abandoned by the Democratic Party, because my primary relationship that I care about the most is mass movements. And
that is just such a load of crap. I mean, that is the biggest load of crap ever. If she cared about mass movements outside the Democratic Party, she would have forced the vote. She would have said, yeah, we have got to push the Democrats from the outside to do the right thing. She completely didn't do that. If she cared about protesting from the outside of a populist movement, she would have rallied people for an enormous numbers, which she could have. She could have spoken on the mall against any aid to Israel whatsoever, for peace in Ukraine, Russia. She hasn't done any of that. She's a total inside player. It's absurd for her to say she cares about populist movements.
And part of my job and my role exists forever in this tension point between mass movements and everyday people and the establishment of the Democratic Party. And so that is always...
And she's completely betrayed the former and gone over to the latter. Witness her fawning speech at the DNC, for example, as one example. Witness her attacks on Jill Stein, a perfect example of her betraying those everyday people she claims to care about.
As long as I exist as a person, I am going to be in this waypoint between these two forces.
All right, and that's just absurd. I mean, you just get sick of hearing it. I told you I was feeling in a good mood, but then when you start hearing this stuff, it just drives me crazy. All right, let's hear Ryan Grimm, because does he have as grim a perspective on AOC and her speech as I do? Where does he come out of it?
Responsiveness that a guy like Biden, who didn't say anything publicly basically for the final 2 years of his presidency.
All right, so they're going to just go on about how really bad things are for, that's how Emma's going to start with. She's like, things really suck. Is there anything good, right? Because the question I had leading into this video was, how do they react to what AOC said? Is there something positive there? So here's what they say.
And feel that on top of all of the other reasons that we talk about with him. And, no president ever gotten reelected with his approval rating, and
right.
It bore out.
And he was the most economic populist president.
So that's funny. They say he's the most economic populist. Now, that's not where Emma and Sam were going with this. They're not big Biden fans necessarily. But they're, all right, he's pretty much of an economic populist, and he's still lost because he doesn't, I guess, present well. And they're going to kind of dismiss that.
He never said a word about it. Never said a word that anybody could absorb.
Could understand.
This is the paradox, right? Like, because you read that piece in the Journal and you start to wonder, like, okay, his administration was the most populist, certainly of our time, and the value. This is frankly like why, and he
wasn't particularly populist. I was thinking about this, and the thing is, you could make an argument he was the most populist because who else? Who else was populist? I guess maybe Jimmy Carter, maybe kind of, sort of, but he really wasn't. He wasn't really big on the working class either. He really wasn't a defender. You have to, I think, go back to LBJ. To have a real populist president, but and so Cedar's like, yeah, it's nothing because he may have been the most populist, but he wasn't really populist. And they're saying we need to go in that direction. We need to really be populist, not even Joe from Scranton populist light. So I agree with that. They're right about that. That's correct.
If we have a Reagan situation, and I think the Reagan situation is very analogous to this on some level, except for, Reagan it was almost like built in that Reagan was going to be a little bit like that. And,
So I don't know what he's talking about there with Reagan. I guess that he's popular. Reagan was popular, but not a populist. But so I'm going to just skip over that. But but they're setting the table. We need populism. We need a Democratic Party that will champion working people. And so is that AOC? Is she the person? So here's what Grimm has to say.
Like in a very obvious fashion, I think. And we've talked about the fecklessness of the Democrats and the fact that we had a pretend president for 4 years. Positive note. What's going to be positive in 2025?
So, AOC, I think you got a little bit of news out of AOC there that could be in a positive direction that I could underline. When she said that as she was running for ranking member, the case that she made to the caucus was that she would lead with economic populism. She would
lead with economic populist messaging, not with economic populist policies. Not by promoting, as House Oversight Committee chair, changes in legislation that would reduce corruption, that would promote good jobs for working people, that would lead to less inequality. She didn't say any of that. All she said is she would message. Now, I thought, and so Grimm's just flailing there, trying to come up with something that clearly isn't there. I thought that interview, and I'll jump off of Cedar and Vigeland for a moment and get into some more reasons why it's fake AOC, not real progressive populist AOC, but fake whatever, faux-aggressive, fake AOC. They had an opportunity when they had AOC on to say to her, okay, what are your plans to promote Medicare for all? How are you going to make it more popular? How are you going? Now, we assume you're not going to get it in this administration. Well, you never know, because Trump did campaign on universal health care in 2016. What are you going to do to try to really push a policy that will, in fact, make life better for working people? It's not a message. What are you going to do to promote Medicare for all, AOC? That would have been a great question. Didn't come up, didn't ask it. What are you going to do to try to end our support for the genocidal state of Israel? Is there anything you can do? What can you imagine ways to try to end the ethnic cleansing in Gaza? Is there anything you can? Let's talk about it, because it's that important. What about the climate holocaust? None of that came up, right? Now, if you want to say, well, those aren't really populist, okay. Trump has appointed a labor secretary, nominated somebody who, by all accounts, actually is pretty pro-working class, pretty pro-union. Can you build on that? How are you going to build on that? Those were great questions where you could have actually tried to figure out with AOC, strategize how to pursue policy that will, in fact, lead to better conditions for working people. Didn't come up. I mean, these were great. These would have been questions that would have been just so exciting to hear hashed out. You know why they didn't come out? Up? Because AOC didn't want to talk about it, because she probably told them in advance, we're going to talk about messaging. We're going to talk about how I wasn't betrayed by the Democratic Party. That's what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about what I could actually do to improve the quality of life for poor, struggling, and working Americans. That I have no interest in discussing. So that's AOC. I mean, I don't know what, that's who she is. And it's just very, very, very sad. We're on our own. If you're poor, struggling, and working, I'm not, but as a progressive, I'm on my own. I don't have any allies in Congress. I don't have any Democratic allies. You think you do? I don't know what else I can tell you. AOC probably has a bright future, despite the fact that, maybe she's right. She wasn't betrayed. The Democrat, she doesn't feel betrayed, despite the fact that Mama Bear torpedoed her and said, "You're not ready to leave the den, cubby, AOC." But it may happen. So from December 17 last week in Axios, really interesting stuff. And this also should have come up, right? This should have come up in that interview. They should have asked her about this. They didn't. But that's why she went on the program. That's why, frankly, she won't go on, she wouldn't go on my program. I don't have enough numbers. But she won't even go on the Young Turks, I'm sure, at this point, because they actually might ask her about it. And they've taken a lot of heat. I'm going to respond to the heat they're getting right now for allegedly moving to the right and cozying up to Trump and all that. I don't really think that's very fair, but okay. Here's what her colleagues now are saying about AOC. "My view is evolving," said Rep. Glenn Ivey. Now, I thought this was so interesting that he has the chutzpah to opine about his view. This is he's starting his first full term, I believe, as a Congress member, maybe his second, right? He beat Donna, one of the most progressive former Congress members, Donna, I can't remember her name, from Maryland, and took the seat. Was it Steny? I don't think it's Steny. It's not Steny. It was guy who became Brown, Anthony Brown, right? I believe it's Anthony Brown. So he took Anthony Brown's seat. I think that's right. So he's starting his first full term. AOC has far more seniority than Glenn Ivey. The view of her is evolving. It's nice how he is able to speak for the establishment. Guy who got in office because of huge support from AIPAC, by the way. And I figure she's figured out how to rock the boat without tipping it over. I don't think she's rocking any boats. She never tipped it over, by the way. I wish she had. We're going to need more players like her. Yeah. more people who will go along and get along, more people that we can change, that will evolve, as she did. And look, Hakeem Jeffries, the Congress member from AIPAC and Wall Street, seems to like her. Here's a flash for you, AOC. If an AIPAC elected Congress member, starting his first full term, and the congressman from Israel and Wall Street like you and think you're going to make it into leadership, here's a flash for you. You're doing something really, really wrong for the American people. Maybe it's working out really well for you, but whatever you're doing is really, really bad for everybody else. By the way, give me a call, 240-242-5646. I'm looking up right now, just so you know, if you hear me typing, I don't think you can, but maybe who Glenn Ivey replaced. Yeah, District 4 must have been Anthony Brown, and that was earlier this year. And I think it was Anthony Brown, yeah. Anthony Brown. And then he beat, October 26, 2021. So I guess this is his second term, yeah, his second term. Sorry to get all that wrong. He joined October 2023. No, Donna, a little bit confused if Anthony Brown stepped down before. It doesn't really matter, but regardless, he was an establishment pick. They didn't want Donna Edwards. So they didn't get her because she had criticized Israel every once in a great while. She had criticized Israel. So there you go. But yeah, this is his second full term. But junior, for sure, to AOC. It's kind of funny that he speaks on behalf of the establishment. But he does, because he was there because of AIPAC. Pramila Jayapal, her Congressional Progressive Caucus chair. I think she should be really proud of herself. I think she should be really proud. This is from somebody who's gotten nothing in terms of health care, nothing in terms of Medicare for all. That's Pramila Jayapal's entire signature issue is health care for all, one payer. She's gone nowhere with it. Progressive Caucus chair. She's got a bunch of people who didn't vote for her in her caucus. She couldn't even get her caucus to back her, right? There are 98 maybe congressional Dems in the Progressive Caucus. 14 of them didn't vote for AOC. Great job. Already on the cusp. She doesn't win a chair or a ranking Democrat position that was set up for her to get. She can't win it. Yeah, she's really doing great. She'll get there, I agree, but she's got to just pay a little bit more dues and become just a little bit tighter with the establishment, and they'll never back her for real leadership, I don't believe. Maybe that'll change. This is what I really wish that Emma and Sam had asked her about. But again, if they had, she wouldn't have gone on their show. You have nothing. You have, you're on your own is what I'm trying to say. There are no real populists, at least not in the Democratic Party. When pressed for her support for primary challengers to fellow House Dems, she promised to discontinue the practice. That means that whoever's in power now in the Democrat Party, that's fine. They can stay. I don't care how they vote. I don't care how many speeches they give supporting Israel without any consequences. I don't care whether they try to ban BDS, outlaw it, take away our speech rights. I don't care. More job destroying, community destroying trade deals promoted by these Dems. I'm for them. I'm never gonna primary them or support a primary challenge to any of them. And look at that. I mean, Richie Torres, her fellow Queens, Bronx. I guess he's in the Bronx. She's Bronx and Queens. Her fellow New York City Congress member Richie Torres, goes out there, tweets nastily about Jamal Bowman, it's fine, whatever. I would never primary Richie. Jamal Bowman is primary. That's okay. That's fine. I'll never primary George Latimer, who, took him out. I got where I got by primarying Joe Crowley, but I'll never support any primary challenges to any Democrats. She promised to do that. She's now paying dues to the DCCC, which we know promotes conservative corporate Dems. I don't know how we can view her as anything but a complete sellout at this point. She's fake AOC. She's fake AOC. I'm not a fan of Sam and Emma from the Majority Report. They have been pretty good on Israel. I want to play this video where Anna, after, they champion AOC, right? Oh, she said the right things. She's good on economic populism. She's for messaging like that matters. But I'll tell you who she doesn't like, who Emma Vigeland doesn't like. Anna Kasparian, her former mate at the Young Turks. Anna Kasparian getting a lot of heat. I'm not a fan of the Young Turks. I did one sweaty jank at one point. I'm not a fan of any of these people. I don't think any of them tell it like it is. But the attacks on the Young Turks for somehow moving to the right because they're saying we shouldn't be so big on identity politics, it's pretty funny, really. And especially coming from the Majority Report, it's pretty darn rich. So let's just play this clip real quick and we can see the hypocrisy, the disingenuousness of Emma Vigeland.
Anna was a friend to me. I truly loved her as a friend, and I told her that. So it's very sad. But the reality is that my principles in this business about calling out people who are doing the why I left the left shtick to appeal to the right outweighs any personal relationships I'm going to make in this space.
Right, so she's really patting herself on the back there. Yeah, I really liked Anna, but I'm not going to ever, let people get away with why I left the left and why I support the right. I'm not going to let her get away with that. And yet, she and that was just a couple days ago, by the way. That video just came out a couple days ago. They have AOC on. They don't ask her one question about her backtracking on primarying corporate Dems. They don't ask her one question about how she now is giving to the Democratic Congressional Re-election Committee. They don't ask her one question about her, full-throated, unwavering support for genocider Killer Kamala. They don't ask her any of that. Nothing. But Emma's good with attacking Kasparian. Now just compare the way the Young Turks covered AOC's latest, fake AOC's latest. There's quite a difference. And it demonstrates the hypocrisy, the phony, the hollowness of the Majority Report's claim to be the true progressive, the true progressive, YouTubers.
Oops. Now, it's worth noting that AOC won her seat in the House of Representatives by, challenging an incumbent Democrat. Okay, that was Joe Crowley, and this happened back in 2018. Again, this means that she won her seat in Congress by challenging a Democratic incumbent. That was the whole point of the Justice Democrats. So the idea that she was willing to concede to the Democratic establishment and say that she will no longer support primary challengers to Democratic incumbents is particularly rich and also very disgusting. But, maybe complying is how leaders lead, or maybe leaders lead without complying or bending to the will of the establishment that she was elected to fight in the first place.
All right, so Kasparian nails that 100%. That's progressive. Progressive is when you call out your own when they're acting corporate, when they're acting pro-establishment, when they're not fighting for the people. And that's exactly what AOC did. She said to her leadership, fine, I won't primary you anymore. I won't challenge you anymore. I won't call you out anymore. I'll do whatever you want if you'll just give me this position. And what good does it do you to have it when you can't use it to promote to promote positive change? That's progressive. It's the opposite of Sater and Veglin, who just, suck up to her. But I get it. They want her on their podcast. They want her on their YouTube video. But as soon as you do that, you betray your audience. It's a tough, I get it. I'd love to interview her too, but if I had that interview, I would ask her those questions. I wouldn't be able to stop it. So I thought this was really interesting because, again, back to my Facebook friend who was telling me how if you don't think Trump is even worse than Biden on Palestine, well, you don't know what you're talking about, or you need a new prescription or something like that. So that was the argument. And that same individual, in demeaning, diminishing, attacking the Green Party, added this line. And I thought it was very instructive in light of what we just saw from AOC. If the Greens all became Dems tomorrow, then the party would become more like the Greens. So you're just saying, well, yeah, if there's maybe 1 million Green Party people in the country, if they all suddenly, including, I'm a Green, but I also am a Democrat, if we all became Democrats, we would be able to move the party to the left. We would get what we want, presumably. But that won't happen because the Greens only want to associate with people exactly like themselves, which is precisely the chief weakness of the so-called left, purity tests. That is, I will leave the last part because I don't want to get into it. It's just not worth it. But AOC is a Democrat, and she took out a powerful ranking Democrat. And there are others like AOC who did similar things. And the party didn't become like them. The party isn't like them at all. The party, in fact, they became like the party. Clearly. Right? So where this Jamie Raskin attends and goes to some event sponsored by Lockheed Martin as he's voting for more and more billions of dollars of arms to go to Ukraine. AOC has on the, I guess she's the chair of the Holocaust Museum, to talk about how bad anti-Semitism is in this country when it's not a problem, when the problem is Jews killing Muslims. But she doesn't talk about that in her little, confab. So it's not true that when progressives become Democrats, the Democrats become progressive. It is true that when progressives become Democrats, they stop being progressive. I don't know what more proof, what evidence you need to realize how bad this party is, how toxic it is, how it poisons and taints every single thing it touches. There's no question about it. All right. Joe Biden did a good thing. I have a lot of stories. This is going to be my last one because it's just about one and I'm tired and I want to keep some stuff for tomorrow, Christmas Eve. So we'll just get to this. I was hoping I'd get some comments or some calls, but I'm not. I guess maybe on their holidays. I don't know. Joe Biden did a good thing, and I'm not going to forget it. He commuted 37 death sentences ahead of Trump's plan to resume federal execution. I didn't realize this, but there haven't been executions during Biden's 4 years, and that's good. The state shouldn't kill people. It just shouldn't. It certainly shouldn't kill people who are in custody, who are not a danger to anybody. It's one thing, I get it, right. You have a shooting, you have an active shooter situation, you have a hostage taker, someone in that vein, you kill them to protect the lives of others, of course. I get that. Self-defense, defense of others. And there will be state actors who are called on to have to do that. I get that. That's not the case when you have somebody in prison in a federal penitentiary. They're not a danger to anybody. They should not be executed. Joe Biden did the right thing. He did the right thing to pause or halt executions while he was president. And he also did the right thing to commute those 37 death sentences. So I give you credit for that, Joe. And again, I'll urge you, I'll give you credit. I got more subscriptions, more likes. Love them. I love them. Here's from a police officer. I really like this quote. I want to share it with you. Screen here. Putting to death the person who killed my police partner and best friend would have brought me no peace. This is what I don't understand. I mean, this seems so clear to me that this would be the case. I mean, I have fortunately not lost anybody to violence. But I might be wrong. Of course, in the moment, I might want them, executed. But I'm with this guy. I understand what he's saying. It will not bring his friend back. His closest friend, said Donnie Oliverio. And he's Catholic, and so is Biden. And Catholics are anti-death penalty. The dogma of the church is, which is good. The president has done what is right. So I think that's exactly right. I don't want to lose. And this is an area where Trump obviously is much, much worse. Well, I mean, he's bad, and Biden is correct on this. So there's that, right? But I can only give Biden so much credit. And I give him a lot. I mean, I don't want it to feel like this is, faint praise. It's not. It's a good thing he's doing. It doesn't really change the quality of life for Americans. I can't really call this populist, but it's good. It's the right action. And Biden says here, I am more convinced than ever that we must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level. In good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new admin resume executions that I halted. So what he's saying is, I can't stop Trump from killing people who are convicted after I leave office. But at least the folks that I've protected from being executed will not be killed. So again, good statement, spot on. Want to give him praise. But again, it's not full-throated, and here's why. He didn't commute the death penalties of every person on death row. I think they were all men. So he left on death row, and I mean, these are really bad apples, right? I mean, these are people you can understand why you would say, well, I can't let them go. And you're not letting them go, but I can't, say they should be spared death. So those are the guy who killed down 11 Jewish worshipers in Pittsburgh in 2018, a horrible massacre there. Dylan Roof, who killed, so these are hate crimes, right? Dylan Roof, who killed 30, he was 30, he's 30 now, killed 9 black churchgoers in Charleston, and then the Boston Marathon bomber, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. So these are really bad people, right? One's a terrorist, the other two committed hate crimes. But the rationale stands. The state should not be executing people. And these are hard cases. And I think part of the reason, maybe I'm wrong, there would have been a huge outcry from both Jewish and black voters. He certainly couldn't commute one, not the other, right? He couldn't commute the death penalty of Bowers, who killed the 11 Jewish Pittsburghers. He couldn't have commuted his death sentence, and not commuted Roof's, and vice versa. So I understand that. I think he would have gotten a lot of pushback either way. But But office, Catholic Church, as far as I know, the Pope doesn't give special dispensations to executioners of those who kill 9 churchgoers or 11 worshipers at synagogue, or terrorists either. The church doesn't give you an exemption to kill those people. As good as it was that Biden commuted those death penalties, it would have been even better if he had also commuted the death penalties of those 3 men left on death row. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. It'll be, I guess I won't even say a special Christmas Eve. I used to play Christmas songs when I did this on radio because we had a little license to play music, copyrighted music. We could play segments of it. I wouldn't play all segments. We can't do that here. So no Christmas songs tomorrow. I will be back, and we'll talk about a couple of things. One, we're going to talk about Elon Musk's plan. Not Elon Musk, RFK Jr., no advertising of pharmaceutical, big pharma, no big pharma ads. Should be interesting, and interesting how the New York Times doesn't like that plan.